Hi everybody, thank you for tuning in to Risky Business today. This is going to be just another real quick one, nothing too crazy today, but I wanted to say that I am a big enough man to admit when I am wrong. And when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Remake,
Here comes the first hurdle.
I was wrong.
Not much of one.
I know.
I was wrong. I posted not one, but two videos just tearing this game apart. And the reality is, it's actually really good. So I started playing this again because it finally got released on PC. And there were two PC releases, right? There was the Epic Games Store exclusive release like 6 months ago, and then it was released finally on all digital storefronts. And if you follow my channel at all, you'll know that I am not fond of the Epic Games Store exclusive model. It's just very detrimental to the gaming industry and the hobby of video games as a whole. Digital distribution having any exclusivity is a bad thing for consumers. So I obviously waited until it was available on more than one storefront. And it wasn't really that it was specifically Steam. Like, I'm not like so devoted to Steam that I needed to have this game on Steam. It was really more that I just needed to have a choice. So anyway, I finally got the game, and I got it on Steam, and I love it. I don't know why I disliked it so much when I was playing it on the PlayStation 4. I completely was wrong. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think the fights are a lot of fun. I think that the materia system is great. And the dialogue that I thought was really cringe the first time around, I'm just not really finding I have that much of a problem with it anymore. The voice acting is excellent. You know, the pacing is a little weird, and yeah, the game is kind of just a hallway simulator, which I'm not too crazy about. But apart from that, I mean, those are kind of forgivable things. I know a lot of people didn't like the whole Destiny thing and trying to fight against Destiny. And I think that, yeah, it is kind of their little way of telling us we're going to be changing things about this story. But I think it's cool the way they're doing it, because by doing it that way, you're making the player a part of that. So yes, things in the story are going to change. But the changes that are being made in that story are going to be done with the player. You're going to be involved in those changes. So I'm actually kind of comfortable with that. And it's not changing anything, right? Like the original Final Fantasy VII is still going to be the same game. That's not going to change. So I'm okay with, you know, a different version of the story, especially because in universe they're acknowledging that it's a different version of the story. And there are all these cool flashbacks in the trailer that are kind of hinted at where Cloud realizes that something's not quite right, and he's having a conversation, it sounds like with Aerith, where he's telling her he saw a reality in which she died. Now, I think, this is my own personal sort of headcanon, I guess, I think that what's going to happen eventually is that all the timelines, or at least the two timelines that we're seeing here, are going to converge and sort of correct themselves. I don't think we're going to see like the mega happy ending where everybody survives, but I think we might see a reality in which both Zack and Aerith are quote-unquote alive for at least some portion of the game, but I think by the end they are going to have died in order for everything to make sense. Even in the ending of this one, which is a little bit of a spoiler, I hope it's not a spoiler for any of you. If it is, then I would stop watching the video now. But at the end of this one, it kind of seems like the timeline gets a little messed up, because for a second, the party seems to cross paths with Zack and a much younger Cloud. So if that's the case, then I'm okay with that. The other thing about this game that I can't seem to get over is it's just a beautiful game. I mean, there's really no two ways about it. I know there are a lot of issues with like some low-res textures in the PS4 version, but yeah, this is just a beautiful game. I keep on stopping to take screen caps all the time. I'm playing on hard mode right now to try and get all of the I guess, items and stuff, and just for the challenge of doing the encounters on hard mode. There's something else I wanted to correct while I'm here, not about this game specifically, but on my Final Fantasy retrospective video, where I did a video just about the original Final Fantasy, I made a mistake there. I repeated the myth that so many YouTubers keep repeating and so many content creators keep repeating. It's a myth where Final Fantasy saved Square from bankruptcy, and that's not really the case. They were never in danger of going out of business. They definitely did have some issues back then, as far as being a small company trying to make it in a competitive market. But they weren't on the verge of bankruptcy, and this is something that Sakaguchi himself cleared up in an interview down the line. The original scenario of what really happened was that it was a game he just wanted to make. And Sakaguchi himself, he was considering maybe going back to college if this whole video game thing didn't work out for him. But it wasn't Square's last chance at, making it. They were never in danger of going out of business. At least not at that time. Later on they might have been after Sakaguchi messed up the Spirits Within, but apart from that, yeah, there was really no danger for going out of business. It was just that he wanted to make this game. And the big concern was that Square didn't want him to make the game. They didn't like the idea of making a fantasy RPG. They felt like it had been done before. Their last big hit was Rad Racer, and they mostly made games for the MSX and Japanese computers. So to make a role-playing game for the Famicom was something that they really weren't on board with upstairs. But he managed to convince them to make his game, and the title was just, he wanted something with the initials FF. It didn't really matter what the name was. As long as the initials were FF, that was all he cared about. So that myth debunked by Sakaguchi himself. The only other thing about this game that I kind of would complain about, apart from the fact that it's a hallway simulator and that can get kind of tedious at times, and the pacing is weird because you're literally doing entire chapters that are going through one dungeon, and they're 4 to 5 hours long just to do one chapter in one dungeon. But apart from those issues, I'm actually really enjoying this a lot. But I don't love how scarce some of the materia are. It doesn't have an all materia, it has a magnify materia. This part's really cool, how the trains come through and the game is smart enough to not get you not hit you with a train. But there's only one magnify materia, and even on hard mode you don't get a second one. But that could be such a useful materia. I suppose that's kind of part of limiting the player though, right? Making sure you can't do too many things that would break the game in your favor. All the encounters, the boss encounters especially, are very execution heavy. Execution is very important. It feels a lot more like a real tactical experience, as opposed to the other games that are similar to this where everything is kind of a little bit too easy a lot of times. And some of the encounters provided a real challenge, especially on hard mode here. The only thing I would complain about regarding the challenge of those encounters is that once you get the hang of it, some of them do get to be just a little bit too easy. But I mean, that's a minor thing in the grand scheme of things, because the game is so enjoyable and fun. If some of the encounters are a little easy, it's really not the end of the world. And that's all I have to say about this game for now. So, look, I was wrong. It's actually a really good game. Definitely not the first time that I ever felt that way about a game. In fact, most of the time, if I revisit a game after not liking it, I usually find things to like about it. So, it is what it is. Finally finished the last battle intel. So yeah, I'm just gonna try to finish all the battle intel, get all the manuscripts, get all the items, do all the challenges, and I'm really having a great time playing this game. The next video that I'm going to be looking to get out is a video on Tactics Ogre for the Super Famicom. Let Us Cling Together being the undertitle of that game. And that was re-released on the PSP and the PlayStation later on, but I wanted to do the Super Famicom version because I feel like that's the original version. It's the version that most of us here in the West never played because you can only play it, with a translation patch. It's a fan translation. And I just wanted to look at the original version of that game and show it to you guys, talk about it a little bit. It's a really cool game. It's basically Final Fantasy Tactics, so I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And down there in the comment section in the description, you're also going to see a link to my podcast, which I'm doing with my friend Jared. Kind of similar to the content that you see on my channel, only I have a co-host with me, Jared, who helps me out with talking about all kinds of different stuff. Really, it's his podcast. He started the podcast, and I'm the co-host, I guess. But it's a great podcast. We have a lot of fun. We talk about a lot of stuff. There's dad jokes. It's a good time. So definitely check that out. And once again, thank you. I've also got a Patreon link down there in the description if you want to throw me a few bucks to help me out with the channel. And until next time, game over.